hard. So welcome everybody to Webclass Wednesday. If you're watching live, love having you in the room. If you're watching the replay, welcome to the replay. So tonight I wanted to cover a subject that I know everybody is dying to talk about. They want to know why they're not writing their book. So why am I choosing to talk about this tonight? Well, I had a call, well, I had a few calls actually in the last couple of weeks with people that had, asked for some discovery consults and got on the phone with them. And this one guy in particular reminded me of me. Back in 2015, when I was writing my book, I've been a writer my entire life and career, and I'm part of the communication network. So you would think that I would have a couple of clues, and maybe I'd have a little bit more sense of relaxation about writing a book. Maybe it would come a little easier to me. But the fact of the matter is, when I spoke to this guy, he almost sounded word for word what I sounded like back when I started working with Mark David Gerson, who was my author coach when I was writing my book. So this gentleman gets on the call with me and he starts kind of apologizing to me. He's talking about this book. He really wants to write his book, and the book sounds fantastic. And I'm listening to the story, and he's telling me that he's been writing it and putting it in journals and typing it in his machine, and he really wants to write a book, and he's dying to write a book. And then he said, I'm really sorry, I've probably just procrastinated it too long. I've just left it on the side. But like, he's apologetic to me, as if he needs to apologize to anybody. And so I asked him, I said, so why aren't you writing the book? Like, what do you think is the reason? And he said, well, who's going to care, really? I mean, it's my story, and it's a great story. But he said, who's really going to, like, care? Because then I'm going to have to put this in it, and I'm going to have to put that in it, and then, well, I can't really put that in it because then so-and-so is going to read it, and they're going to say this, and then if I put this other thing in it, well, I don't want to upset this person. So it ends up being fear, right? I mean, this is always the reason. Fear is always the reason. And that's the piece that always holds us back. So when I was writing my book, I was writing away another book. I mean, I've told the story before. I was writing another book, and I was writing a chapter about gratitude, and that chapter ended up being a book in itself. But I put the book together, and I showed the manuscript to Mark, who was coaching me at the time. And I laid out, and Samantha has the book there, so she knows, and she's probably read through the chapter that didn't exist when I first wrote the book. But I wrote the entire manuscript, and I showed it to him, and there's journaling in there. But the first 15 chapters were really about why you would want a gratitude practice. So I was giving you the why and the how, and then place to write. And it's really like a 5-part book. So he read the whole thing, and he didn't say very much, but he just got back to me and he said, there's one thing that I noticed that you left out of all this great writing. He said, you didn't say a single word about yourself. You didn't share any personal information. You didn't go out there and tell people why you really wrote this book at this particular time. How everything in your life shifted in 2012 and all the events that changed your life from that one event. And you didn't share it because of fear. Right? And so this guy was kind of paralleling how I was feeling. And back then in 2015, when I created Pathways, I had written and published this book. And so I had to then go in and write the one chapter that was the hardest for me to write out of the whole book, which was the day my father died and how my life changed from that moment. How everything changed from 2012, what precipitated the writing of the book, all the events that happened. And I was afraid to share a piece of me. And we all know that we've got to share a piece of us for our readers to make any kind of connection. Otherwise, it's just like reading a magazine article, about some new product that's out in the market. Okay, part of the reason why we don't write our books is we come up with a multitude of reasons that all fall into the same category of fear. Okay, so in 2015, when I wrote the book, and this was brought to my attention, then I wrote chapter 2. So Samantha, you'll see it all in chapter 2. Chapter 2 is all about that incident, but right afterwards, I started Pathways, and I started consulting with people that wanted to write books. And that's when I expanded my company into this literary division. And I kept asking people about their books. I kept getting the same answers over and over and over again. So I created a document back in 2015, end of 2015, early 2016, called What's Holding You Back? So I thought tonight, when this guy and I had this conversation and I asked him, what's holding you back? It reminded me about this PDF that I created that I used really to send to people that were kind of on the fence and they weren't sure. And I knew that this was a part of the publishing process that I didn't see anyone else doing, which was getting inside the mindset piece. Okay, it's not just about sitting down and writing a book. It's really about who you're becoming, the journey that you take as a human being along this pathway to the publishing part. The book part is just a small piece. It's a product, but it's a product that comes from a piece of you. It's like when you have a child, it's a part of you that's coming out to the world. A book, we kind of feel that way about our book, right? We feel that way about the pieces of ourselves that we share. And that's one of the main reasons why people don't ever write that book, because they identify with what I call the 10 most limiting beliefs that they tell themselves. And what I wrote in my blog was the word belief, okay, has the word lie in it for a reason. The word lie is the lies that we tell ourselves that just aren't true. One of my favorite quotes by Dennis Waitley, it's not what you are that holds you back, it's what you think you're not. Right? So we have these preconceived notions of who we are and who we are not. And the fact of the matter is you have everything you need to be that author. But what we resist, we should persist. When we feel that resistance, we know we're on the right track. We need to move through it. Most people, they don't do that. Okay, so what I wanted to share tonight is this PDF that I created that's just as relevant today as it was when I created it. And I just want to share it with you and run through what these 10 most limiting beliefs are, and then maybe just kind of reflect on your own experience with writing your book, wherever you are in that process, and see, how does it sound? How does it feel with you? Does it resonate with you? Does any of this sound familiar to some little voice that's in your head? So this is to future authors, right? You dream of writing a book, but you don't. So what's holding you back? So here are the 10 most common limiting beliefs preventing you from becoming a published author. So whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Everyone knows that quote that apparently was from Henry Ford. So think for a moment about the little voice that keeps reminding you how much you've always wanted to write and publish a book. How many times have you imagined what it will feel like to hold that book with your name on it for the first time? I love that one. Well, whether you've just become aware of this call to write, or the urging has been traveling alongside you, whispering, nudging, or poking at you for years, just knowing that you must write is the critical piece of the book writing puzzle. The call to write is not one you'll want to put on hold for too long, because that voice won't disappear until you do. However, many choose to wait for years, even decades. In this article, I've highlighted the 10 most common obstacles we give ourselves permission to believe. Reasons why we haven't achieved our book writing dream. So when someone tells me how much they'd love to publish their own book, I get really excited because I know how it feels. And that was my dream too since I was 9. I love it when someone decides to tell their story and share it with the world. But when I ask when they plan to publish their book, these are some of the most common responses that I've heard. I have no idea where to start. Who am I really to write a book? I'm not an author. I don't have the expertise to write a book. I'd like to, but I've always been a terrible writer. I hate writing, but I still want to author a book. I don't have time. There's too many things to learn about publishing. Who would want to read my book anyhow? What would people say? I'll begin next week, next month, next year. Heard that one a lot. Everyone tells me I should write a book. My friends tell me I'm crazy. It's been a dream most of my life to write a book. I think I could help others with my life experience. Don't I need a degree to write a book? I've overcome adversity. Why would anyone read my story? If I had someone to help me along the way, I might consider it. I'll never be able to get the book written. I may as well just accept that. It all sounds so complicated. I don't even know where to begin. And I'm not good at sales or promotion, so my book will never sell. So if any of these sound familiar, I've heard them all many times in the last few years, for sure. So why do so many aspiring authors put their creative ideas on hold? Why procrastinate when you really know what you want to accomplish? Of course, you know, not always consciously, that you have a treasure trove to share with the world. And you've probably been told on numerous occasions how you really should write a book. These nudges may mirror your own thoughts about how you must write, or the opposite, that the notion of your becoming a published author is outrageous and ridiculous. You may have dismissed these clues or silently acknowledged them, filing them away for another time, thus allowing your limiting beliefs to take over. The truth is, once you've heard or felt the call to write, there really is no way to unhear or unfeel it. It's just a matter of time. So the simple answer, fear, disguised in many shapes, sizes, colors, and textures. False expectations appearing real. Notice how you feel when you think about your dream of publishing your book. Do you experience feelings of excitement and passion, or unease and discomfort? A series of messages are delivered to your brain every time you think about it or engage in conversation with others. These messages relay feelings and emotions that lead to fearful outcomes you may have falsely identified as undesirable. The urgency attached to setting and achieving your goal depends on how you choose to frame it. Should I or must I? You'll notice your body responds differently when you feel you should write a book, or more urgently, you must. Our internal message system determines the speed of our actions and outcomes. How we proceed is directly linked to our own belief system. A belief is the assumption we make about ourselves, others, and the world around us, and how we expect things to be. A belief is a feeling or certainty about what something means and what we think is true, and what we therefore perceive as a set of consequences or results from our behavior. We see the future through our lens of the past. So depending on your belief system, the quality of the voice, its strength, tone, and tenor that repeats any of the above messages to you will determine whether you decide to categorize your book into a should or a must. The secret to the fear factor is that we are often the one person standing in our own way, because a belief system that limits our success for a number of reasons. There are hundreds of possible obstacles we set up for ourselves in the context of limiting beliefs. I've had the great pleasure of working with dozens of best-selling authors and forthcoming authors, in all cases varying versions of the themes. They overcome fears and limiting beliefs in order to get out of their own way and help others. Their mission and their message, their why, which is the one thing that you want to ask yourself when you find yourself getting in your own way. The one thing that you really want to concentrate on is not so much how you feel about writing the book, but how others will feel when they read it. Because when we take our eyes off our immediate self and look at the bigger picture of who our book is meant to serve, it takes our eyes off our feelings of any kind of disease at all. And we tend to want to be giving. And when we want to be giving and we see things as bigger than ourselves, our fear tends to dissipate or even disappear. So what is your mission and your message? The sooner you identify it, the sooner you'll feel empowered to take massive action to achieve your dream of writing and publishing your book. Knowing you are in a position to inspire others may be the key to shifting your should to a must. So here are the 10 most common self-imposed limiting beliefs or obstacles that may be preventing you. So this one I hear probably the most often. I have no time. I have no time to write the book. I'm really busy. You know what? You don't understand. I have a busy job. I have this. All these things may be true, but we all have the same 24 hours in the day. And anybody who's ever written a book has still got the same 24 hours in their day. So how did they do it? They created a must, and instead of a should. They made it a priority. Okay. Number 2, lack of information or misinformation. Out there, there's a ton of information. If you want to look up how to write a book, you're going to get every single piece of information. And if you want specifics, you're not going to be able to find those either. So it's, you know, it's an easy one to fall back on, because to get the information requires effort, just like sitting down and writing the book. So don't have the information. I don't really know how to do it. I'm not going to do it. Okay. Number 3, money paradigm, lack of money. I can't afford to do this. It's very common. And while I'm not saying it's not unreasonable, Hazit and I talk a lot about this. You don't pay attention to your current status when you're focusing on where you're going and what your goal is, right? The opportunities, the obstacles are there, but the opportunities to help you get where you want to go start showing up. So what you want to do is not focus on what you don't want, focus on what you do. We will often justify helping others before we invest in ourselves. So the same person who may say, I can't afford to write this book, may be able to find reasons to help other people with the same investment, because the fear keeps you from doing the action that's required. So this is just another alibi. Okay, feeling overwhelmed or stuck, lots of extra information, way too much information, not able to kind of disseminate it, don't really know what's true from what's not true. And there is a lot of information out there about publishing a book. So there is the potential for overwhelm. And, well, there's ways to get around that. You get somebody to help you and guide you through it, like any other process that you need help getting from point A to point B. Distractions, big one. Phones, devices, anything that is in your world considered a distraction. We distract ourselves from all sorts of things that we don't want to do. I mean, I've found myself doing all sorts of chores that I would hate ever doing, ever, but all of a sudden they seem to be really, you know, a good idea. Let's go do this now. Because we're just avoiding, we're creating distractions for ourselves to sit down and actually do the writing. Listening to other people, some rely on the opinions of others, family, friends, peers, colleagues, those outside of themselves for direction. We usually know what we want, but allow the judgment of others to create doubt in ourselves. You won't be able to write a book. You're not a writer. You're dreaming in Technicolor. Listening to your own inner voice, your intuition, is vital, because we all have the answers we need within. Make time for quiet daily reflection, and with hands to your heart, feel your strength and feel gratitude for your own ability to make sound and wise decisions. It's in that meditative time, away from any exterior influences or distractions, that you'll hear the voice that will guide you forward. If you choose to listen, you're on the right track to greatness. By the way, whether you dream in black and white or full color spectrum Technicolor, keep doing it, whether you're fully awake or asleep. Dreaming awake is really good. Lack of ability. It's an issue of self-doubt, self-imposed or otherwise, and fear. It's not a question of whether or not you lack the ability, right? There is a fear, one of the next fears, of success, which is just as powerful. The timing's not right. That's another one. You know what? I really want to write this book. I'm going to wait till the end of the semester. I'm going to wait until I've gone on this vacation. I'm going to come back and then I'm going to write it. I'm going to do it next year because it's, you know, I've got a whole bunch of stuff that's on. It really depends on the burn. How much do you want to serve other people? How important is it for you to get your message out to people? The timing is right now. The timing will always be right now. We're the ones who get in our way, and we tell ourselves the timing is not right. Okay, and the last two big ones, fear of success and fear of failure. Okay, one of my favorite poems by Marianne Williamson, right? Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make magnificent the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates other people. So think beyond you, think of the higher picture, and a lot of these limiting beliefs, which I categorize all in the same place of fear, means that we're resisting becoming the person who is an author. And what was told to me by Mark David Gerson when I asked him, who am I to write this book? I mean, I've had my byline on newspaper columns. Why am I having so much trouble adjusting to this one thing? And he said, it's really simple, Carolyn. The word author is just an authority. That's it. You know, it's an important thing to become an author. Society designates it as what it is. It's quite an accomplishment. But to shrink away from it because the word sounds so big, just break it down. You're the authority on the subject that you're writing about. So go and write what you know best. Write it for your reader. Take your eyes off of you and share your gift, because it's a gift. And it's our job to share our gift. So I'm going to come back to you guys. I hope you guys could see that okay. I got some extra people in the room here. Hey, everybody. So that's, there's so many fears that we know that we have. The fear that's attached specifically to writing a book is a big one, because it involves vulnerability. It involves fear of judgment, fear of criticism, fear of a lot of stuff. But the fact is, all those people that you fear are judging you are actually cheering you on. You just don't know it. So you know that when that book is published, those very people that you believed as lies that were maybe critiquing or judging you are actually going to be people that are going to be the most proud of you. And there are readers already for your book. That's the thing. If you've been blessed with the idea, it was given to you for a reason. So when I started understanding that and started shifting my attention outward as to who I could serve with what I was writing, I started to feel a responsibility to produce this book, because I knew that if I could change the life of one person, it would be worth it to me. One person. Now, I knew it would touch more than one person, but that was enough. And we all know when we're writing books, it's not for the faint of heart. It's not something we sit down and do in a weekend. I see these things all over, you know, the internet. Oh, we'll sit down, we'll do a workshop for a weekend, the whole thing will be finished, it'll be done, you'll have it published in a month. No. It's an odyssey. The author odyssey requires us to become. You're not writing a book, you're becoming an author. That requires you to create a picture of who you want to be and to walk in the footsteps of that person. It means that behaviors are going to change, habits are going to change, and that is what we resist. That is what we hold ourselves back from. That's where we say, I'm going to keep it small, I'm comfortable here, I don't really want to have to rock the boat, this is going to require effort, it means discipline, it means I have to do things, it means I have to prioritize other things, but yeah, it means that when that book comes out and your name is on it and a reader contacts you and says, you have no idea how this book changed my life, all of that goes away. It's like having 3 children. People say, oh my gosh, you know, it's having a kid. Yes, childbirth. Got it. As soon as that baby comes, any amount of labor disappears. It's gone, because it's so worth the gift. It's so worth the gift. So if you think of your book in that way, And if you think of your readers as people that you desire serving, you're going to find that any kind of fear starts to feel kind of secondary. Does that make sense to anybody? I'm seeing a couple of nods. Okay. All right. So I wanted to cover that because I think it's really, really important. Our thoughts create our reality. So the more you think about all the things that could go wrong, chances are you're going to attract a lot of that stuff to you, and you're going to duplicate that energy every time you think about it. So what I want you to do is imagine how it feels when that person says to you, your book changed my life. Imagine what it feels when the book arrives and all that labor has gone into this beautiful piece of work, this gift. Imagine those things. Those things will keep you motivated. Those things will make time to write the book. I was talking to Linda Green today. She's writing this phenomenal book, and she's squeezing in a half an hour here and a half an hour there to get it done. Right, Linda? You're making time, and you're a busy lady making time. You want to share with the group at all how you fit those things in, how you prioritize your book?
Sure. I have 2 days of the week that I have dedicated writing time, but sometimes before dinner I have a little bit of time while it's the chicken's baking or something, and I can go clean up a paragraph here and a paragraph there, or like the section I'm working on right now, formulating a little coaching into the book. So I use that evening time to actually do my reading and my research, and that way I can kind of sleep on the ideas overnight, and then the next day, that little nugget that I'm trying to find, it will just show up. It's just part of that prep time. And, my challenge has been, it's like I have 18 different documents that over the last 3 years, I've written a bit here and a bit there, trying to pull it all together. Yeah, that was fun. but it was, I'll get this section in today, and tomorrow I can work on that one. And it's just like, I'll highlight a section that I know I need to get back to clean up, but I don't get stuck there. I just keep moving on. And then there are some days where I may not have the energy to come up with the original thought to write a new section, but those are times that I use for going back and doing a little light editing and, clean up a sentence. Or it's like I had about 5 pages that I thought were straight up duplicate, and I highlighted 5 pages, and the other day it took me about 20 minutes to clean all that up. But it's just doing a little bit here and a little bit there, and thanks to Carolyn, not getting overwhelmed with it.
Well, you know what I think is really important about what you said, thank you, Linda, is that I think, we create momentum the more we take action, right? It's the starting that stops most people. I don't believe in writer's block, by the way. Writer's block doesn't exist. It's really writers in action. That's what it is. Okay. We say we have writer's block. It's because we haven't sat down and done anything. That's why. Because once you sit down and start, or you write something down on a piece of paper, you keep a notebook, or whatever writing means for you, when you start doing it, you have no choice but to create momentum. It's like a rock rolling downhill. You're going to start to think of more, and one thought's going to create a new thought, and a new thought's going to attach to another thought. Before you know it, you're lost for, an hour. And you go, oh my gosh, I've been writing all this time. But I think what happens with a lot of us is we just say, okay, I know, I got to do it. Tomorrow I'm going to have more time on the weekend. I'll do it. It's starting it. It's like anything else, right? It's like going to the gym. It's like training. It's like anything that you want to become. Zita and I talk about this all the time. You have to practice. You have to practice it. You can't become proficient at anything without practicing it, which includes creating the manuscript that will become your book. So even if it means 15 minutes that you go in and you're not doing any writing, but you're in it, you're immersed in it, you're doing copy edits, you're moving things around, guaranteed, once you sit down and get in it, you're going to want to do more. And then it's going to propel you tomorrow to say, I got to go back. Oh, I just had that thought. I got to add that in. And I mean, Linda is a perfect example. I mean, Linda and I worked on her book in Florida last August, and she's been writing it consistently, and it's quite a big book, consistently throughout, and adding to it, and then adding journal entries to it. And then you've got one big mess of information, and then you get in, like getting in the muck, and you start cleaning up. But it's all important work. Writing a book isn't just sitting down with a blank screen and I'm writing my book today. It's a project. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes discipline. But I guarantee you, if you start, and even if you say to yourself, okay, I got 10 minutes every day, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or I'm going to put Saturday mornings aside, or whatever it is, like you were going to a dance class, like you were going to an art class, like you were going to something that your kids would say, okay, Mom, I got to go on Saturday morning for 3 hours. We got to go and do this. You would prioritize it. Boom, right away, you'd go. You wouldn't even think about it being in your calendar. Put your book writing in your calendar. If you looked on my phone, every block of time, whether it's study time, whether it's reading, whether it's journaling, whether it's going to the gym, anything that I do has got time devoted to it. It's how I know that I'm going to accomplish goals. So if you are feeling the resistance to it, think of what it is about becoming the author that you know you're called to be. What is it asking you to grow through? What is coming up that means you got to take a look at this piece? It's asking for you to grow through the writing, okay? And then making the decision that it's time to do that, okay? Because every decision we make, everything we do, we're here to grow. Okay, if you've been called to grow through writing a book, then the longer you put it off, percolating is one thing. Making a decision to write the book is as much of a decision when you don't write the book. Okay, so any questions? I'm going to open it up to anybody who has any questions, anything they'd like to share. Wanda has in the comments, fear of success. That's what I'm working on right now. I deserve to be happy, successful. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people fear success. They don't see themselves. They see themselves as they are. Bezit's the authority on vision portraits. Seeing yourself as the person that you imagine yourself to be. Okay, and then keeping the vision of yourself in front of you, and then starting to become that person, which means you're going to do things a little bit differently, and you're going to start walking in the footsteps of who that person is. So if you're an author, what does that mean? Well, what are some of the things that your favorite authors would do or not do? Okay, I often see, in different author groups, there's people that are sharing in different author, writers, help groups, and I can see why they're not writing their book. They're spending all their time complaining about their circumstance. So their posts, instead of asking for help, they're using that time and energy and space to complain about this, that, or the other thing. Well, it's no surprise to me that they're not moving forward because they're focused in the wrong direction. So you got to get your thinking straight. You've got to make a decision that I am an author and I'm going to start to become that author. And what does that mean for you? Well, that means writing. That means spending some time doing that. Okay. So anybody want to chime in? I've got everyone here writing. Go ahead, Gabriella. Unmute you.
Hey, everyone. How's it going? Happy to be on this call. Wasn't sure if I was going to make it. It was kind of ill this afternoon, but I'm glad I made it because it was exactly what I needed to hear. I felt like this call was for me and only me.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, but I'm just so very grateful to be part of Wednesday and Sundays with you, Carolyn, because you have definitely motivated me and have kept me going. And I find myself finding that time to write and cleaning up and fighting against that fear of not wanting to do something, or why I mean, we spoke about at one point why I was stopping and whatnot. So I'm just gonna plow through, and when I get to that section, I'll deal with it when I gotta. But I'm just wanted to say that I'm so very grateful to be part of all this, because it's really helping a lot, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. So
I'm
thank
really
you.
glad you're here. And thank you. I'm really glad you're here. And you know what? You could do something similar to me. You could write the whole thing and just leave out that section. That's what I did. I just left it the hell out. I had to write it in the end because I got called on it. But he was absolutely right. And that was the piece that was hardest for me to write. So I tended to just pretend I didn't have to, but you do have to. But don't forget, there's editors involved in the stage of writing after, you put a manuscript together. So this call that I had with this guy in particular, he was concerned about certain things in the manuscript. I said, listen, write it as if no one's going to read it right now. Okay?
Yeah.
Write it as if it's just for you. It's the only way to get it out of you without judging it, without editing it, without, because that's what happens. We write and we go, oh, no, I can't write that. And that person's going to read it one day and they're going to think this and they're going to think that. So, okay, so then you hold back and you don't
Well,
want
I actually had that conversation with my daughter this week, because she asked me, how the writing was coming along. And I said, yeah, it's coming along. And I was telling her about my fears about the fact that, it's probably going to get a lot of people pissed off. And she's like, yeah, so what are you going to do about that? And I'm like, nothing. What can I do about it? My perception is my perception, and the way that other people are going to read it that are involved are going to just take it the way that they take it. And it's not my problem. My journey is my own, and that's how I see it. And I have a story to tell, and I know that I will have a message that will touch someone. And that's what I'm aiming for.
That's all you have to think about right now. And the same thing applies. Write it, even write the stuff that you know is uncomfortable to write. The part that you keep
100%.
telling yourself is, well, yeah, but people are going to get pissed off. You actually don't know whether that's true or not. That's a perception. Okay. You're looking at that point of view because you're habitual. That's a habitual thought. Okay. It's another roadblock with fear. So I'm not saying they will or they won't, but most of the time when we believe that somebody or a group of people are going to judge or say something, we're creating something that is likely never going to happen.
100%. And yeah, there was actually a little something that happened too this week, going back to our call that we had on Sunday with abundance and whatnot. It's just so weird when you're a lot more attentive to things that are going on around you. You realize that the universe really is listening to you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good thing, and it's a little bit scary, but it's kind of fun to see it all develop. So I'm excited. I'm very happy with all of this. It's just exactly where I need to be. So
good stuff. Well, just keep writing. Just get it out of you and put it in a place where nobody ever has to read it. You can worry about all the rest of it when you get to the phase of really, getting an editor in there and deciding then what you want to keep and what you don't. It's like a sculpture with clay. You have the big blob of clay and you just keep removing from it. And as you remove from it, you start to see what the silhouette of the sculpture is going to look like. I mean, just get the big blob of clay on the wheel. Boom. Okay. And then you can play with it. And then we can fine tune it and finesse it and do all the things we need to do with it later, but just get it out of your head.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, good. Thank you, Gabriella. Anybody else? Hey, Jenny Q, who's got anything to share, or anything in your particular circumstance, anything that you've been thinking of, or something that you want to ask? Wanda?
Hang
on. There we go.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, exactly what Gabrielle was saying. I couldn't have needed this more, this session tonight, Carolyn. Thank you. I just love you. I love everybody on this call. Your energies is helping me. As you know, I'm so close in handing my novel in, and this is why tonight I really needed this call. I was writing about things that happened between me and my husband. And exactly what Gabrielle was just saying, and you mentioned about the universe having your back. Well, you were the messenger tonight, both of you, because as I'm writing, it is dark, it's deep, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't write that. Okay, back it up. And then I started writing. I'm like, wait a minute. I have to write this. This is a part of who I am today. Whether people will get offended or not, they may not, because the purpose of it is getting it out. And then, like you said, there will be editors. There will be people helping me through this to finish it. It's to get it on paper. And Carolyn, thank you so much for that, because I'm literally so close. Cynthia, my second daughter, she happened to be playing this song. I mentioned it on our chat there. Nickelback. If anybody listened to Nickelback, I'm not much of a, huge fan, but they're like a few songs. She kept playing over and over, "What Are You Waiting For?" That is exactly what we're speaking of tonight. That song, holy mackerel, talks about fear. What are we waiting for? What are we stopping ourselves? It's all about us. So I just wanted to thank you. And it's really close, Carolyn. I'm handing it in. I'm so paranoid, but oh my God, I have to.
No, you're not.
I think
excited.
You're right. I am extremely excited. It's just, I can't wait for that first step to say, here, take it. And I'm going to run, go hide in my bed and let me know how you feel. But and then it's going to turn out to be okay. I know it will be.
A lot of the time it really is the way we frame it, because everything, the coin has two sides. You get to choose the lens that you see something through. You get to choose whether it's something that is serving you or something that doesn't. And sometimes these are just habitual ways of thinking. And if you start paying attention to those thoughts as they come up, for example, something like what you just mentioned, right? You're so paranoid. When you get into the habit of kind of a pattern interrupting those kind of thoughts, you kind of find yourself going, I'm so
and I stop myself.
I can't wait to hand it in.
Awesome. I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hand it in.
Doing that. Pattern interrupting is a habit, like anything else. On your way to kind of changing the lens that you look through, to make sure that your vibrational energy is really good and stays in a really good place. You watch the vocabulary. We all do it. Watch the vocabulary that we use when we talk to ourselves. We never talk to a good friend the way we talk to ourselves sometimes.
Oh man, that is so true. I always lift people up, and I'm like, why do I'm so hard on my own self?
It's a habit, but you can change it. Like you can change it like this red hot minute, as Esther says. Right now. You can change it and pattern interrupt with it. And it will, to all these little tiny baby step changes, they all contribute to the big picture. They don't feel like it at the time, but then all of a sudden you'll start noticing that, you carry yourself differently, and you're starting to think differently, and you're thinking of your future differently, because you've started making these small little changes in the way you even talk to your own self.
And you're so correct. I'm doing that right now. I catch myself with little falls, but yes, 150. Like your 10 common that you just read out to us, it's like I can tick each and every one of them off.
You and everybody else.
And thank God for everybody else. I'm not alone.
Right? It's like you're not alone. Everyone thinks the same thing.
I know. Like that guy you were mentioning, like, wow, like that's me, So thank you, Carolyn, for sharing. And I am very grateful for this Wednesday website. Webclass. Thank you.
Okay. Kazit, do you want to say a word about imagining yourself, picturing yourself as who you want to be? You were in Miami doing a beautiful interview today.
Yeah, my friend Chase surprised me, so it was really, really fun. I kind of wanted to say for those who haven't finished writing their book, just because I'm on the other side, and I wrote a book that's kind of like, it's all about my vision, which means it's not, it's being manifested as, I'm kind of like, I wrote the book and now I'm creating my life to match my book. That's the way I do it. And you know, and I had like just some thoughts. I was like saying to Carolyn, like, shouldn't I wait for me to accomplish what I want to accomplish first before launching the book? But the whole purpose is no, you know? So I had like this like little fear. And I have to tell you, now that I've launched a book, it doesn't really matter. Nobody says anything about it. It's just like our mind chatter. Our mind sometimes can play games on us and tricks on us. So I just want to let you know that being on the other side, all these little thoughts that I thought was, you know, were not true. And so kind of like the book is also a testimonial, because that's how I live my life. I actually create the picture of what I want, and then I become it. And so I actually did the same with the book. I wrote a book about the lifestyle I'm creating, and now I'm creating it, you know?
You are.
And what's really fun is that you never know, you know, when I wrote the book, it was never to become a New York Times bestseller or an international seller. And this like huge opportunity came up, you know, when somebody asked me, you know, hey, do you have a book? And they can do like some kind of distribution for it. And so, you know, the book kind of takes a life of its own. And guys, I want to tell you, it's so magical. Like I would have never, ever known. It's just a book that came through me, and I knew it had to be out into the world. And I want to encourage you all to keep going, finish your books. Everything that you think just falls off. And then and then what happens, like all these magical opportunities happen out of nowhere. You know, people want to distribute your book. People want copies of your book. And it becomes so magical, you know? So I would say remove the pressure and treat it more like a fun project. That's what I did at the end. I decided that I'm just going to have fun, you know? And everything that I do create is just, it's always about having fun. It's something I just want to experience what it's like to be an author. I'm going to have fun doing it. It doesn't matter what people think or don't think, because the truth is nobody's really thinking about you. You know, people have their own things to think about, you know, that's really the truth. So, you know, just put it out there, be courageous, and you'll see everything kind of just flows, and it takes a life of its own. And it's really, don't let your mind get in your way of creating a book that so needs to be out there into the world. If it came to you, it's because it has to come through you. Yeah, you are chosen. You are chosen for that message. So you must deliver.
You're the authority, right?
Yeah.
That's
so you must deliver it.
And all of you have got that. I mean, everybody on this call is an authority on something, and they've been called to write about it, and you're just simply the one delivering the message. You're the messenger, but it has to come through you.
That's right, because the idea came to you, not to anyone else. That's what you have to remember, you know, the idea came to you to write it, you know? So you're just following the idea. You're being a creator, and that's all you are. You're acting as the creator of this book. That's it, you know? So you just have fun with it, and you write what you have to write, and you don't erase. You just, you know, you just write. And, you know, and just,
enjoy the process. I mean, you know, when I was working with Pazita, her book, we turned it from a 5-page book into an 88-page book just because we wanted to have fun with it.
Yeah, it turned into a project, and you just remember, you're always free to be you. So be free to be you. And this book is an expression of your freedom to be you, to express yourself.
Great
so
message.
It's, you know, so just keep that in mind. Focus on that, make that big, and yeah, and just enjoy it. And I agree with you. Like you put anything into a schedule, just put into the schedule. Carolyn and I work on like a million projects at the same time, but we get it done because it's on the schedule. As soon as we decide, we just put it out, you know, and we just keep going. So you decide. You're the creator of your book. You want it to be 100 pages, 500 pages. It's you who decide. You decide when to start. You decide when to stop. So
but once you start, it does take on, it absolutely takes on a life of its own. It's probably the biggest message that I have. I told Michael Challenger that over and over again. And here's a guy who was writing a book about fear, and he had fear. He was sharing a lot about himself, his life, and on top of it, he was sharing the fact that he had fear with people, as he would, with people that never imagined that Michael Challenger had fear. So he was doing like a double whammy. He was sharing part of his life, and he was kind of coming out the fact that he was just like everybody else. He had fear. And during the process, I said, well, just wait. This is just the beginning. The book isn't the end of this road. It's the start of this road. once the book is out there, okay, and it starts coming out in its own energy, and it starts now becoming part of the energy of the lives of your readers, and they hold your book. I mean, you know, you got to imagine what it's like when somebody takes your book home, when they order it and it comes from Amazon because they chose you, right? And they open your book and they've got it on their desk, on their nightstand, on beside them on the couch, and they're taking time out of their life because they want to know what you have to say. It's an honor and a privilege to be part of the life of somebody else. So think of it like that, and feel, as soon as I say it, I feel compelled to go and get busy, right? You feel compelled to complete a project that you know will help another person. So if
You know
that, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, Carolyn, you brought such an important point. I want you guys to think of all the books that helped you. What if those authors did not write those books?
Right.
So something to think about, you know, all those books that we read. I mean, I know there's so many books that changed my life. I cannot think if Louise Hay did not write her book, if Wayne Dyer did not write his book, if, you know, Steve Jobs did not write his book. You know, so you have to think of yourself as the same way, you know, that as you've enjoyed reading their books, people are going to enjoy reading your books. And as much as they've helped your life, you're helping somebody else's life.
And that's what becoming an author is about. People say, I don't help people write books. I help them become an author.
Yeah.
Okay. Writing the book, you can write the book. You have all the information you need. You have everything you need right in the palm of your hand. I don't need to help you do that. The part that I'm always really happy to be in the helping part with, because the book is, it's logistics. You know, you get the manuscript, we get it designed. Those are all fulfillment services to get your book out there, and they're all important. But the piece that's most important is how you make a decision to become the person who's going to have their name on the bottom of that book. Okay, that's the part that I'm privileged to help people navigate that part, because that's the piece that's the most important. That's the change, growth, and transformation. So the author odyssey it's the journey for the author. We all think of the reader as being the one who benefits from the writing of the book. Well, the readers, yes, of course we're going to change a life, but we change ours first. And that's what we resist. That's when the fear comes. And that's why we have to use the way we think, all right, to change the way we feel, to change the way we act, so that we become. And it all starts with the way you think. And if you come on our 7 a.m. calls on Sunday morning with Pazit and I at the 7 a.m. Sunday Club, you get a whole dose of that every Sunday, because that's what we always focus on, the thinking mind. So
Absolutely. Whatever you feed grows. Yeah, whatever you feed grows. So grow your dreams, guys. Grow your dreams of becoming an author. That's where the focus should be at 100%. Why grow the fears? Nothing good comes out of it. So grow the dream, and so something great will come out of it.
I got Samantha with her hand up. Samantha.
Oh, I think I forgot what I was going to ask.
I'm going to lower your hand. I didn't see your hand up.
Oh, it's okay.
You got 2 books all at once.
Of course I would. As you guys were talking, something came to me, you know, because the first book, which is just about done, and it's the 365 days of, you know, it's a collection of reflection from my heart and soul to yours. And as I listened to the whole conversation tonight, what I realized is that I've always had so much energy. I have so much love in me that I want to give, so much that I want to, like, I wish I could go out and just kiss everybody and hug them and just say, you know, like, you're so loved. And sometimes it overwhelms me, but I've oftentimes in my life, it's been shut down because, you know, I felt it was just too much. And it's no surprise that the book has 365 different passages. Thank you, Wanda, of all different things, because oftentimes I used to feel like I was so scattered in everything. And I kept praying. I said, I wish I was good at one thing. just one thing. That's all I wanted. It was just one thing. And now I realize that my diversity is a generosity that I have to offer this world. What I once taught was my biggest curse is my biggest blessing. And I remember today when I read in
That's so
chapter
beautiful.
3,
So
it
beautiful.
is the burden becomes the blessing.
Yeah.
But we have to be willing to open our eyes to that. And when I was listening to everybody talk about, the difficulty of writing through the fear, and you're talking about writer's block, and I agree with you, there is no such thing, because I think sometimes we have a clinical perspective of we need to sit down in a quiet space with a blank page and a pen. That's like going to the doctor's office.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah, it's kind of like, and so where I have a busy energy, now that doesn't mean that I don't get tired, because I have to be very mindful of that. I have 3 children. I just phased into 2 jobs. I wrote my whole book on my iPhone 5.
That's so
But I wasn't thinking about those things. I just done it because there wasn't an urgency in itself to write the book. It was because it was so important. And when you focus on the fact that I'm looking back in retrospect now, like, so I can see, it was so important to me. It didn't matter how, but that's the whole story of my whole life. It didn't matter how. I was going to figure it out. Suppose I had to claw my way, I would find a way. And so when I hear they were talking about, like the writing, I remember standing and walking in my house with my phone, and my kids be like, "Mom, your hands are going like crazy again," because I'd be writing. That's what I would do because I had so much energy. And the automatic writing, it can be the scariest, but it is where the best stuff comes out. And like you said,
total vulnerability, it comes out, comes through you, right? Because he was talking about
through,
that.
yes, bang through.
Yeah.
And the thing is, ride that wave out.
Yep.
Ride it right till the end, and then you're gonna feel all kinds. Your blood pressure might go up. It's physical because it's a visceral response in the body. But ride that wave. And I remember through my automatic writings, that's where I got to see the real me, the one that still likes to hide behind the curtain. And as I'm preparing to go into the second book, and because we had the author lab day, and I was able to sit down and really share, and it's like, I know I'm ready for that. So when I sit down with my pen and my paper or my iPhone, because I usually just use the phone because I don't want to translate it back after because it's just too much work. But the brilliance in that is nobody's going to see it if you don't want to show it.
Right.
So it can be cathartic for yourself. But more important, when I get into a space where I feel I'm going to be engulfed by the emotions, because it can be so intense, I ask myself, why am I doing this? For who? For sure for me, there's a healing process in this. But in sharing the book that I'm bringing out to the world, it's because it's like you said, if I know that I can touch the life of one person, one single person. So you get it in your own way when you realize that you're serving a higher purpose.
Yep.
Then the should is not even there. It's a must. It's like there's a hunger. It's a passion, and it becomes sometimes almost crazy. It's like, because things fall into place then. So it's often like, when they say when you get up to speak in front of people, I know that a big part of my path will be speaking. And I'm still struggling with that, because when you get in front of people, I'm worried how I'm going to look. You know what I mean? My face can be funny. So my face is always very expressive. So my face can be going like contortions of all kinds of ways. But it's not about me. It's about the message. It's about the person before me. So when we get into a place of service, and I share every day on my community page and on my personal page, and I'm so used to it now because I'm observing. I know that when I'm coming from a space of being true, wanting to serve, from the thought or the inspiration that came through me, or is or when I'm coming from a place of trying to perfect it so I can look a certain way, which is a self-image. So you come into it's amazing when you become observant, but like you said, be playful with it. Don't punish yourself. Just have fun with yourself. Because oftentimes I'm like, Samantha, you are not going down this road again. Get back over here. You know, in a playful way. And I can only say this now because after writing the first book and now moving into the second one. So, you know, 6 months from now when I'm sharing on the second book, I don't know what my position will be because we're constantly growing. And that's the beauty of it. And like you said, it is an odyssey. And like Pazit had said, which is magical, the book, the first one, it's only now that I can write the second one. And I'm becoming the embodiment of everything that I've written in the first book.
Yep.
I'm getting to see the diversity of me on each of those pages because somebody had said, well, why don't you include quotes of other that you love? And I said, I don't want to share dead poets quotes. I want to share the living. I mean, there's value in that, but like Pazit said, and it's true, there's an unbecoming in order to become.
Yeah, there's a
And
letting go.
really,
There's a letting go.
big time.
No question. You have to let go of
Yeah.
who you were, right, to become. I was
Big
talking
time.
about that on the 6 a.m. club this morning about what I call the gap, right?
Oh,
The
yeah.
between who you were or who the self that you have been because of the way you were thinking to become that self and the self that you are now becoming. In my mind, there's a gap in the middle. It's kind of no man's land where it's uncomfortable. I mean, that's basically the bottom line is when we're getting away from who we were and we're trying to resist being pulled back to that place of familiarity. There's a real discomfort there. And I call that the gap, and I equate it to being in London in between any of the major transport, you know, whether it's a bus or the tube or a train. They always say, mind the gap, right? So that you don't get your foot stuck in between the bus and the sidewalk. And that's how I think. Sometimes it feels like my foot's stuck and I feel really uncomfortable. And then I just remind myself that it's just the next step towards who I've decided to be me, right?
Well, and Carolyn, you know this very well because we talked a lot, and you know the different plans and stuff that I'm endeavoring and I'm doing, it's a choice. The mindset part, because I worked a lot on the emotional part, like closing the emotional gap, you know, therapy. But the mindset, I've avoided a lot, and now I knew as I continued to choose to expand, I knew that the contractions were going to get closer together and much more harder. I knew it because I could feel it.
Start birthing that baby.
Oh God. So I'm like, okay, now I need to set myself up in a way that I surround myself with like-minded people that's already, you know, like some steps ahead of me.
Yeah.
And also take on habit that's going to help sustain me and nurture me and feed me the nourishment that I need as I'm moving through these contractions, because there is a lot of resistance. It's not within me. There is some within me, but it's those around me. I can't mind those around me. But it's very difficult because it's what you know.
It's about expectation too, because if we expect, like I did not expect to have a hard time when my daughter was born. Like I just didn't expect it. You know, if you go in with the mindset that it's going to be hard, it's going to be hard. You're going to fulfill it. It's going to be, because whatever you focus on expands. So if you keep telling yourself it's going to be hard, right? So this is not a hard journey, but it's one that requires you to become mindful of the growth of you and to make a decision to choose the path that is where you must go. Instead of always thinking about it and always imagining it, that's all good, but then take the step forward. Okay, make the decision. And that's what it always comes down to, no matter what it is to make the decision for anything. And as soon as you do that, bam.
Oh my God.
Everything changes.
Everything is flying. Everything's flying. and it's
Yeah.
in such a right direction. I can feel the energetic vibration rising sometimes. I'm like, I'm so full of energy. I'll have to dance. I'll have to do something to get this energy, because I know that I'm rising in vibration.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Good.
heady. It's heady, but at the same time is what I've realized, because I'm observing myself through all this, the mindset is so important. And I think it's a part that we oftentimes miss because we take it for granted.
The mindset, Pazit and I talk about this almost every day.
Well, it is
Mindset.
pure potent potential there that can either nourish you to blossom,
Mm-hmm.
or it can keep you in a very space of stagnation. And I lived in such a space of stagnation for so long. I was doing a lot of other things, but in the grand scheme of things, and now where I'm taking all these big steps forward, and I mean, as I listen to everybody on the call, you know, I see a part of myself, a bit of myself in everybody. And I'm
Yeah,
sure
sure.
it's the same thing, because none of us, we're not all that different when we
Mm-mm.
really look at it.
No,
I mean, we're
exactly.
diverse, but we're not all that different.
You got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you. Oh,
for sharing.
thank you.
Do I have anybody else before I call it a night here on our fantastic Webclass Wednesday mastermind calls? Anik, do you want to? Yes.
First of all, hi, Carolyn.
Hi, Anik. I miss you.
Same here. Hi, ladies. You're all so beautiful, wonderful. It's just great to hear you all talk, to hear how much you're centered. You're trying every day to be in alignment with you and what's important to you, and to hear you all creating this magic that you don't even know really what the end result's going to be. You're going to just live it when it happens. It's all very exciting. I'm kind of at a different place right now. I'm certainly percolating. Carolyn knows I've been percolating for a while, but it's not because I'm feeling fearful. It's not because any of that. I'm just an artist, and I'm already creating a lot of things as my days go by. But it was good, and I certainly wanted to be on the call today because I knew that I needed to hear certain reminders.
Yeah.
That no matter how busy you are, you have to make the time, et cetera, et cetera.
And percolating, don't forget, we like that word, right, Linda? Well, the word percolating really has more to do with the fact that you're writing your story in real time.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, Carolyn, you said that several times before. By the way, it's just beautiful, the kind of souls that you're attracting around you. It's just,
isn't it?
Yeah,
So good.
But just to say to that, I feel like my book is evolving all the time because I'm evolving every day. I'm listening to things. I'm writing things down. I'm constantly inspired. So sometimes I think, well, it's got to keep percolating. The only good thing I've done.
You're living. You're the things that are meant to go in your book, you're creating now in real time. So the only reason why I never tell somebody they're procrastinating is because I don't believe that's ever the case. I believe that, okay, other than the fear part, if you're able to look at that clearly and say, you know, no, it's not something that I'm held back by fear, because that's possible. But the other reason too is that the book is just not meant to be born yet. Like, you haven't learned all the stuff you need to go in that manuscript the way it's meant to be. So the universe is delivering you all the experiences now that you're living. And the moment you know that you have what you need for that book to come together, you will know that time. It will scream at you and say, oh my gosh, now I know exactly what that book has to be about. And well, I couldn't have written it before because I didn't have this, and this under my belt yet. Right? So you're writing it in real time. That's why I say life writes extraordinary stories. That's what happens. We're writing it as you live.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
you've got so much going on, my artistic, incredibly talented friend. So I love watching everything that's happening with you. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Just great. Okay, my loves. Well, I got Jenny Q there, and I know she's been on a night shift, and I was on a call with her this morning, and I'm so glad you decided to join us, but I know that you're ready to get some rest now. It's all good. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure. I love these Wednesdays. I have so much fun. I love listening to you. I love your stories, and I love everything you're creating. So just take a deep breath every day and say, I'm a creator. I'm creating my life, and I'm going to serve people, and I'm going to help people. And that's just going to make you feel good the moment you think it. So thank you. I have a recording. I'll send it to all of you in case you want to listen to it. And big love to everybody. Saying good night. Night, everyone.